Hey friends, Rich here, Rich's Custom Marine and Auto. We're back here working on the little Nissan Versa 2007. We're going to go over changing your front brake pads. So one thing I always do when I go to do a set of brake pads is just take a good look at everything. Is the strut, is the shock portion of the strut, is it leaking up here? Is there been anything rubbing? What's the condition of the brake line? The ABS line here, how is it? Is there any damage or tears to it? Your bolts here, where the strut bolts on to this spindle, has this been moving at all? In other words, are those loose? So, cotter pin out here in your axle shaft. Take a look down inside of here. There's sway bar length. You've got your steering tie rod ends. So, just take a good look at everything. And also take a look at your CV boots, the outer and the inner. Make sure they're not torn. You'll notice grease thrown up all over the place if they are. So we'll get to going here. This is a 14 millimeter. You never want to let your brake caliper hang from the brake line because you can damage that. So just work that caliper off of there. And then what I do is I'll just set it up here like so. Now if I was going to do other maintenance, like I was doing a CV axle or something like that, I'll just take a couple zip ties, go through the hole right here, and then go through the coil spring, and then that'll hold it up out of the way. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but when I took this off, this rock fell out of there. So I'm not exactly sure where that was wedged, but I have blown this disc out with air, compressed air, and that rock was still in there. Now this car did belong to someone who lived on a gravel road. It doesn't anymore. It's moved on to its next owner. So not really surprising that there would be rocks in there, but I mean that's kind of substantial. So there's the condition of the pads. They're probably 20%, 25%. The disc itself, other than having a little bit of surface rust, is actually in really good shape. There's not really any lip out here on the outside, so it's in really good shape. I actually drove this car on the trailer and off the trailer and up the road and back, so it doesn't have a warped disc. You know, it wasn't any chattering or anything like that. So our new pads here also came with hardware. And you'll see this sometimes where there's a whole bunch of these things and you're like, what the heck? I only need 4 and there's double that. Well, often there's different styles for the same make and model. So that's why they'll have 2 different types in there. So we want to make sure that definitely looks like what we need. A lot of times if these things are kind of old and they've had a bunch of heat cycles, they'll just fall right out of there. But these actually had to be pried. So again, you just want to match up. So that'll be our lower one. And then I always like to take a wire brush, clean the channel up, and clean where those shims go. And then we'll take air. I'll spare you guys the noise on that one. I'll cut the camera when I do that. But then I'll take air and I'll blow that all out, just to make sure I've got nothing behind there when I go to pop those new pieces in. Okay, so what was going on, we had an issue with the upper shim and it was rubbing the disc. So right down in there, of course it was the top one I'm talking about, but I can show you on this one, the two little tabs there, they were not pushed down in the way they needed to be, so it was kind of bowing that shim and not letting things seat properly. So now we should be able to just get our pad back in here. Now, there we go. Now it sounds right. Okay. Now another thing to look for, guys, is sometimes when you get new brake pads, you've got to put the shims on yourself. These already have the shim installed, so nothing to worry about. So now we're ready to go ahead and should talk about that too. So these pins, caliper slide pins, you want to make sure they move nice and free like that, because those will also be a source of a caliper locking up and getting either really poor braking quality or wearing the pad out really quick, wearing out, like say one pad, or wearing them out at an angle. So now, if you guys have seen me do brake work before, if you've seen the channel before, I always use blue Loctite, just a little bit of blue Loctite on the caliper bolts. Just kind of a cheap insurance. Now a lot of times from the factory, they have Loctite on the bolts, and if you get, even going to like your local auto parts store, if you get new caliper bolts or you go to the dealer or whatever else, a lot of times they'll have like a pinkish colored stuff on there, and it's already got the Loctite on there for you. So now those are in, we're going to go ahead and torque them to 20 foot-pounds. Okay, so now turn the wheel back straight. And we're all set. So again, like I said, guys, you'll want to top off your brake fluid, and because as soon as you step on that brake pedal and that piston comes out, that area gets filled up with fluid and it'll draw down your reservoir the next time you let off the brake. So pump your brakes up, add, and then check it. The procedure that I use, there's some differing theories on bedding in brake pads. You don't just put on a set of brake pads and then just go drive it normal. You actually have to get them to break into the disc. It is more ideal if you have new discs as well, but I do it the same way either way. I get going up the road, get up to 55, 60, and then do about a medium stop, and you'll notice that your brakes really do not work that good anyways on your first stop. That's pretty normal. And then you do not want to stop with your foot on the brake, because you'll end up with a hot spot in your rotor. So so get up to 55 or 60, do about a medium intensity stop, get rolling back to 60 again, get a little bit more aggressive, and then do that one more time. So you do that 3 times. Then you want to drive it for 2 or 3 minutes, turn around, and then come back. And I usually do it twice on the way back. Right as I get going, I get up to speed, get on it hard, but always get down to about 5 miles an hour, get off the brakes, and then get right back up to speed again. Do it one more time. And then I drive the rest of the way to my house, which the route I use here is about 1.5 miles, which lets them cool a little bit, and then pull back into the shop. At that point, I top off the brake reservoir one more time. And just a reminder too, guys, don't set the parking brake, because if you've gone out and done a bedding procedure, your brakes are really hot. You really can warp them. Even if they're drums in the back, you can damage the drums. Make them out around. So you want to make sure you don't set the parking brake. If it's a manual transmission, just leave it in gear, or if it's an automatic, of course, it has park. But that's a procedure to use. So and the way I say it is I do 3 stops on the way out and 2 stops on the way back, and then should be good to go. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Please like if you did. Click like for me. Subscribe. We're a small channel here. We're trying to grow it. Just sharing things with you guys. 25 years of experience of working on everything from aircraft to cars to aviation ground support equipment, small engines, lawnmowers, outboards, stuff like that. So just want to share that knowledge with you guys and grow the channel and do our thing. And we help people out here. We're really, we charge about half of what it costs in town to do our maintenance, because we really do want to help our friends and neighbors here. And but it takes money to keep the lights on and have things like all data, where I can have torque specs and all that stuff for any vehicle out there. So just help us grow the channel if you would. And as always, we appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one.